My name is Vanessa Hale. I'm 28 years old, and for most of my life, I believed loyalty was the one thing that could survive anything. I believed that because of Ethan Mercer. Ethan and I had known each other since 7th grade, back when he was still this skinny kid with a chipped front tooth and a temper that always got him into trouble. I was the planner. He was the wildfire. Somehow, we balanced each other out so perfectly that people used to joke we shared one brain between us. He joined the Army right after high school. I stayed behind and built a contracting business from the ground up. And despite how different our lives became, he never stopped being the closest person I had. Which is exactly why what happened with his wife nearly destroyed both of us. Or maybe it would have, if she hadn't underestimated me first. Ethan met Sabrina Vaughn 3 years before everything collapsed. He was home on leave for a charity fundraiser downtown when she walked into the room wearing a white satin dress and a smile so polished it looked rehearsed. Ethan called me that same night, sounding like a teenager. "Vanessa," he said, laughing under his breath, "I think I just met the woman I'm gonna marry." I remember rolling my eyes while reviewing invoices at my kitchen counter. "You said that about a bartender in Nashville once. This is different." And somehow, it was. At least for him. The first time I met Sabrina was at a cookout Ethan's family hosted a month later. She arrived 20 minutes late, stepping out of a black SUV like paparazzi were waiting for her outside the driveway. Before she hugged anyone, before she introduced herself, before she even acknowledged Ethan's mother, she photographed the food table. Every angle. Perfect lighting. Then she posted it online with the caption, "Nothing beats Southern family love." Something about her unsettled me instantly. Not because she was beautiful. She was. But because she looked at people the way investors inspect properties. Calculating. Evaluating. Choosing value. When she spoke to you, her eyes never fully stayed on your face. They wandered around the room, searching for something better. Still, Ethan was happy. Happier than I'd seen him in years. And after the childhood he survived, happiness mattered more than my instincts. So I stayed quiet. That silence would haunt me later. They dated for 2 years, mostly long distance because of Ethan's deployments. Sabrina transformed herself into the perfect military girlfriend online. Every post looked curated for sympathy and admiration. Missing my hero. Deployment life is so hard. Counting down the days until my soldier comes home. Thousands of heart emojis. Photo shoots in camouflage hoodies. Tearful airport videos. People adored her. But after a while, I realized something uncomfortable. None of it actually felt about Ethan. It felt about attention. About being seen as the loyal military wife waiting faithfully at home. She wasn't living a relationship. She was branding one. They got married 1 year later in a courthouse ceremony, right before Ethan's deployment overseas. No huge wedding. No honeymoon. Just paperwork, quick photos, and promises about a bigger celebration later. 2 days before he shipped out, Ethan invited me over to his mother's house for a small farewell dinner. Toward the end of the night, he pulled me aside onto the back porch. The summer air smelled like barbecue smoke and rain. "I need a favor," he said quietly. "You know I got you. I just need someone keeping an eye on things while I'm gone. House stuff. Scooby. Sabrina if she needs help with repairs or anything." I nodded immediately. No hesitation. That's what family does. Ethan hugged me hard enough to crack my ribs. "Love you, Ness." "Love you too, idiot. Don't die over there." He laughed. But looking back now, that was the last truly uncomplicated moment either of us ever had. The first month after Ethan deployed felt normal. Sabrina texted occasionally, asking if I could check on their golden retriever, Scooby, while she visited her sister for a weekend. Then it became fixing small house problems. Garbage disposal. Garage door. A leaking faucet. Nothing weird at first. Honestly, it made sense. Ethan trusted me, and I knew how to fix almost anything. But slowly, the tone changed. "Thanks again for helping today. Seriously, you're amazing. Ethan's lucky to have someone like you. I don't know what I'd do without you around." Then came the late-night texts. Can't sleep. The house feels empty without him. Do you ever feel lonely even around people? I kept my replies short and careful. Hope you get some rest. Deployment's hard. Hang in there. I gave her nothing emotional to work with. Nothing flirtatious. Nothing that could ever be twisted later. And something about that seemed to frustrate her. One Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rang while I was sitting at my dining table reviewing estimates for a kitchen remodel. I opened the door and froze. Sabrina stood there, wearing heels and a fitted black dress, holding an expensive bottle of wine. Not casual clothes. Not neighbor stopping by clothes. Date night clothes. I was in the neighborhood, she said with a smile that felt overly practiced. Thought I'd thank you properly for always helping me. Every alarm bell in my body went off at once. I didn't invite her inside. Stayed planted in the doorway. Appreciate it, I said, but I'm buried in work right now. Her smile faltered slightly. Only for a second. Then it returned sharper. Oh, okay. Maybe another time. After she left, I checked my ring footage out of curiosity. She'd been sitting in her car outside my house for almost 10 minutes before coming to the door. Fixing her hair. Checking her lipstick. Practicing expressions in the mirror. That wasn't spontaneous. That was preparation. Over the next several weeks, the visits multiplied. Every excuse more ridiculous than the last. A shelf was too heavy. The garage door stopped working. She needed advice about paint colors Ethan wanted. And every single time, she was dressed like she was heading to cocktails downtown. Tight dresses. Heels. Expensive perfume. Lingering eye contact. Long pauses. One evening, after I fixed a garage issue that mysteriously worked perfectly the second I arrived, she leaned against her SUV and sighed dramatically. You ever feel like you settled in life? She asked. I kept tightening a bolt without looking up. Not really. I do. Her voice turned softer. Ethan's good, but he's predictable. Everything is duty, structure, routine. Still didn't answer. Then she laughed quietly. He chose the military over me. Can you believe that? I begged him to leave after we got married. That finally made me look at her. He loves serving. Exactly, she rolled her eyes. Like some abstract idea matters more than his own wife. Honestly, it's pathetic. Something cold moved through my chest.
Pathetic.
She called Ethan pathetic while he was deployed overseas, risking his life. The same man who worshipped her. The same man sending flowers across continents because he missed her. I finished tightening the bolt and stood. Garage door's fine, I said flatly. You probably hit the disconnect switch. She watched me carefully. You're always so serious, Vanessa. Occupational hazard. You know, she stepped closer. We should hang out sometime. No repairs. Just us. There it was. Finally, out in the open. I met her eyes directly. You're Ethan's wife. Her expression hardened instantly. That's all I am to you? That's exactly what you are to me. For 1 second, I saw the real Sabrina. Not the polished influencer. Not the devoted military spouse. Something meaner. Something entitled. Then she smiled again, like nothing happened. Wow, she said softly. Guess loyalty really still exists. She walked away before I could answer. But that night, I started screenshotting everything. Every text. Every voicemail. Every strange visit. Because deep down, I had the sick feeling this woman wasn't just reckless. She was dangerous. And I was right. I just didn't understand yet how far she was willing to go. Once Sabrina realized I wasn't going to flirt back, she stopped pretending subtlety mattered. That's when things became dangerous. At first, it was small escalations. Texts arriving after midnight. Photos I never opened but immediately screenshotted. Voicemails whispered like secrets. I can't stop thinking about you. You understand me better than Ethan ever has. If things were different, I never engaged. Not once. No flirting. No emotional intimacy. No gray areas. But I also didn't block her. Because by then, instinct was screaming at me to keep collecting evidence. And thank God I listened. Sabrina's next tactic was uglier. She started trying to turn me against Ethan. One afternoon, she showed up claiming the water heater was acting weird. I was in the utility room checking pipes when she casually said, "You know Ethan talks down about you sometimes, right?" I looked over my shoulder slowly. "What?" "He says your business is kind of sad, like you peaked in high school and now you just renovate kitchens all day." I stared at her. Not because I believed her, because the lie itself was so transparent. Ethan had helped me build that business from nothing. He'd spent entire leave weekends hauling tile and drywall beside me when I couldn't afford extra labor. He bragged about my company constantly. Sabrina noticed my silence and pushed harder. "He says he feels bad for you sometimes." Still nothing from me. She crossed her arms. "You don't even care?" "I care that your water heater's fine," I said, grabbing my tools. "That's about it." Her jaw tightened. She hated not being able to manipulate the conversation. And every time she failed, she escalated harder. Over the next month, I documented everything. Texts, voicemails, ring footage, dates, times. Every interaction went into organized folders on my laptop. Part of me felt paranoid doing it. The other part knew exactly why I had to. Because women like Sabrina never accept rejection quietly. They rewrite reality instead. The moment everything truly shifted happened at a 4th of July cookout. About 30 people were there. Friends, neighbors, couples with kids running through sprinklers. Normal summer chaos. Sabrina floated around the party, playing her usual role perfectly. The lonely military wife. Showing people pictures of Ethan. Talking about how hard deployment was. Laughing too loudly at every joke. Touching everyone's arm when she spoke. I was standing near the grill talking with my friend Declan when she approached us holding a drink. Declan noticed her expression instantly. Later, he told me she looked like someone walking toward a target. "Vanessa," she said sweetly, placing a hand on my chest like we were intimate. "Can I talk to you privately for a second?" I immediately stepped backward. "Anything you need to say can be said here." Her eyes flashed irritation. Then she leaned close anyway. Way too close. Close enough for me to smell the wine on her breath. And she whispered graphic things into my ear. Explicit things. Descriptions of exactly what she wanted to do with me. And then, the final disgusting line. "Ethan could never satisfy me the way you could." For a split second, pure rage burned through me. Not because she wanted me. Because Ethan loved her completely. And she was humiliating him behind his back for sport. I looked her dead in the eyes. "You should go home and check on Scooby," I said calmly. "At least one living thing in your house still deserves loyalty." Then I walked away. Declan followed me 30 seconds later, looking horrified. What the hell was that? Nothing good. "She's seriously trying to sleep with you?" I rubbed my face. "Yeah." "And Ethan has no clue?" "No." Declan shook his head slowly. "That woman is going to burn her entire life down one day." Neither of us realized how soon that would happen. 2 days later, Sabrina launched the first attack. My phone started buzzing non-stop. Messages from people in our friend group asking weird questions. Checking if I was okay. Asking vague things like, "Did something happen between you and Sabrina?" Then Jordan called me directly. "Vanessa, I need you to be honest with me." "I am honest." "Sabrina's telling people you've been harassing her." Silence. I genuinely thought I misheard him. "What?" "She says you've been texting her inappropriate stuff, showing up at the house uninvited, making her uncomfortable." I laughed. Actually laughed. Because it was so insane. "Jordan," I said finally, "ask her to show you the messages." He hesitated. She said she deleted them because they upset her. Of course she did. That afternoon, the social freeze-out began. People stopped replying normally. Group chats went quiet when I entered. A couple friends canceled plans suddenly. And I understood exactly what Sabrina was doing. She was moving first, controlling the narrative before I exposed her, making herself the frightened military wife while painting me as the predatory best friend. It was strategic. And honestly, it almost worked. Then came the financial hit. A married couple named the Dawsons had been negotiating a massive remodel project with my company for 3 weeks. Kitchen, bathrooms, custom tile work. Nearly $40,000 total. Enough work to keep my 6-man crew paid for over a month. We had contracts drafted, materials ordered, demo scheduled. Then the wife called Thursday morning, sounding stiff and uncomfortable. We've decided to go another direction. My stomach sank immediately. Can I ask why? Long silence. Then, we just think it's best. Click. Declan later found out the wife belonged to the same local Facebook group as 2 of Sabrina's friends. That was all I needed to know. One rumor. One accusation. And suddenly, my company looked radioactive. I sat alone in my office after that call, staring at payroll spreadsheets, while anger crawled slowly through my chest. Not because I lost money, because my employees lost money. Men with mortgages. Kids. Bills. People who trusted me to keep work coming. Sabrina wasn't just ruining my reputation anymore. She was hurting innocent people because I refused to sleep with her. That's when my sympathy for her died completely. From that point forward, everything became documentation. Cold. Precise. Permanent. And then came the text that changed everything forever. Tuesday night, 11:07 p.m. I remember the exact time because I stared at the screen so long, my phone dimmed twice. I know you're trying to turn people against me. Stop. Then another message immediately after. If you tell Ethan anything, I'll tell everyone you assaulted me. I'll go to the police. I'll destroy your business and your life. Try me. I read it over and over. Hands numb. Heart pounding. She'd finally said the quiet part out loud. False accusation. Blackmail. Weaponized lies. All in writing. I screenshotted everything instantly. Uploaded copies to cloud storage. Transferred files to an encrypted hard drive. Printed physical copies. Because if Sabrina was unstable enough to threaten that, then she was unstable enough to actually do it. And suddenly, this wasn't just about protecting Ethan anymore. It was about survival. The next morning, I called him overseas. Video connection was weak. Static cutting in and out. Sand-colored tents behind him. He looked exhausted, but alive. The second he saw my face, his expression changed. What's wrong? I swallowed hard. There's something you need to see. His voice sharpened instantly. What happened? I made a file. Texts, screenshots, voicemails, everything from the past 4 months. Silence. Then, everything? Everything. He stared at me for several seconds. I could literally watch his brain trying to reject the possibility before hearing it. Finally, quietly. Send it. I'm sorry, Ethan. No, he said immediately. Not yet. Just send it. So I did. The entire file. Every disgusting message. Every threat. Every lie. Every attempt to seduce me while he was deployed overseas. And after I hit send, I sat in silence for nearly an hour, staring at my kitchen wall. Because deep down, I knew something terrible had just started. I just didn't know yet how ruthless Ethan was capable of becoming once his heart finally broke. Ethan didn't call me back for 3 days. 3 full days. No texts. No updates. Nothing. I told myself he was processing it. that he needed time. But somewhere in the back of my mind, fear started creeping in anyway. What if seeing all that shattered him? What if he thought I'd hidden it too long? What if part of him still believed Sabrina? By the third night, I barely slept. Then, at 2:13 a.m., my phone rang. Ethan. I answered immediately. Hey. His voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that only exists after something inside a person has already finished breaking. I saw everything, he said quietly. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. You okay? Long silence. No, he admitted. But I will be. There was machinery humming faintly behind him somewhere on base. I imagined him sitting alone in desert heat, watching his marriage collapse through screenshots on a military laptop. The thought made me sick. I'm sorry, I said. You didn't do anything wrong. She threatened to accuse me of assault, Ethan. I know. And she's been spreading lies about me for weeks. I know that too. His voice never rose once. That scared me more than yelling would have. Then he said something that changed the direction of everything. I'm coming home early. I sat upright. What? 6 weeks. I already started the paperwork. Can they even do that? They can when someone important owes you favors. I rubbed a hand over my face. What do you want me to do? Another pause. Then Ethan spoke in a tone I had never heard from him before. Cold. Focused. Strategic. I want her to bury herself deeper. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? It means stop shutting her down so aggressively. I frowned immediately. You want me to flirt with her? No, never give her anything real. But stop acting disgusted every time she approaches you. Let her think she's getting somewhere. You're asking me to bait your wife. My wife already tried to destroy your life, Vanessa. Silence. He continued calmly. She threatened a false police report. She spread lies about you. She cost your company money. At this point, we don't need suspicions anymore. We need a case so airtight she can never twist it. I hated how much sense it made. Still, something about it felt dirty. Ethan must have heard the hesitation in my breathing. You know why she escalated? He asked. Because I rejected her. Exactly. Her ego can't handle rejection, so now she's trying to regain control. If she thinks she's finally succeeding with you, she'll get sloppy. I stared at the wall for a long moment. Then I thought about the Dawson contract. My crew losing work. The assault threat. The lies. And worst of all, the way she mocked Ethan while he was serving overseas. Okay, I whispered. Can you do it? Yes. Good, he said softly. Then let's finish this properly. The next 6 weeks became a masterclass in psychological warfare. And Sabrina never realized she was losing. Ethan transformed into the perfect husband again overnight. Flowers delivered to the house. Long, affectionate texts. Video calls where he smiled and talked about how much he missed her. He told her she was the only thing keeping him sane overseas. Sabrina posted every second of it online. My hero, heart. Counting down the days. Distance means nothing when love is real. Watching it made my skin crawl. Because while she uploaded those captions, she was simultaneously sending me messages saying she wished Ethan would stay deployed longer. The duality was honestly horrifying. Meanwhile, I followed Ethan's instructions carefully. I softened. Not flirtatious. Never enough to implicate myself. Just warmer. More conversational. Hope your day's okay. Glad Scooby's doing better. Sorry you've been stressed. That tiny opening changed Sabrina immediately. She exploded with confidence. The texts became more explicit. More emotional. More reckless. One voicemail arrived at nearly midnight with her whispering, "If you kissed me once, I swear I'd never stop thinking about it." I archived it beside 43 other files. Everything timestamped. Everything backed up. Courtroom ready. 3 weeks into the operation, Sabrina nearly figured it out. She texted me one afternoon. "Did Ethan sound weird to you lately?" I stared at the message. Every instinct sharpened instantly. "What do you mean?" I replied carefully. "He said something strange on the phone yesterday, about knowing who his real people are." My pulse kicked hard. She was smarter than she looked. Dangerously smarter. I forced myself to respond casually. "Honestly, deployment changes people, probably just stressed." No answer. 5 minutes. 10. An hour. I genuinely thought we were exposed. Then finally, "Yeah, maybe, LOL. I'm probably overthinking." I exhaled so hard, my chest hurt. That night, I called Ethan immediately. "She's suspicious." "What tipped her off?" "You got too philosophical." He actually laughed quietly. "Noted." "Seriously, Ethan." "I know. I'll tone it down." Then his voice lowered again. "Stay sharp, Ness. People like Sabrina panic when control slips. Panic makes them unpredictable." That warning proved accurate 4 days later. Because Sabrina showed up at my house unannounced, while Declan was helping me organize evidence. The second my ring notification popped up, my blood ran cold. Her car rolled slowly into my driveway. "She's here," I whispered. Declan immediately started gathering paperwork from the kitchen table. Printed timelines. Screenshots. External drives. We moved fast. Laptop shut. Files hidden. Hard copies shoved into a locked cabinet. Declan slipped out through the garage side door seconds before Sabrina knocked. I opened the front door, trying to look normal. She stood there in a pale blue sundress with full makeup done perfectly. No repair excuse this time. No fake emergency. Just intent. "Hey," she said softly. "Can I come in for a minute?" "Actually, no. Bathroom renovation. Whole downstairs is a disaster." A complete lie. But believable enough for a contractor. She tilted her head slightly, trying to look past me into the house. I shifted just enough to block her angle. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. Sabrina wasn't just trying to seduce me anymore. She was investigating me, watching for cracks, testing behavior, searching for evidence that I'd told Ethan. "You seem nervous," she said quietly. "Long day." Her eyes lingered on mine. Then she smiled. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately." I gave a careful half smile. "That so?" "More than I should." Every word felt like walking through a minefield. One wrong response and everything detonated. Finally, she stepped backward. "Well, maybe next time. Drive safe, Sabrina." She held eye contact 1 second too long before turning away. The moment her car disappeared from the ring feed, I locked the door and immediately called Ethan. "She almost walked into the operation." "But she didn't," he replied calmly. "You don't understand, Ethan. I think she was checking if I'd exposed her." She probably was. The steadiness in his voice unsettled me. "You sound terrifying lately." He went quiet for a second. Then, "You know what the hardest part was over there?" "What?" "Believing I had something loyal waiting at home." That sentence stayed with me long after the call ended. Because underneath all Ethan's calm planning, I could hear the grief bleeding through. And somehow, that made what came next even crueler. Over the following weeks, Ethan quietly dismantled his marriage behind Sabrina's back. He hired a brutal divorce attorney, separated finances, changed beneficiaries, moved money into protected accounts, documented every asset carefully, legally, cleanly, methodically. He also prepared for the false accusation. Because unlike me, Ethan understood military investigations intimately. He knew Sabrina would eventually weaponize allegations once cornered. So we built defenses first. Declan gave notarized witness statements about the cookout. Jordan documented Sabrina's smear campaign. Ring footage established every visit to my house. By the time Ethan's flight home arrived, We had enough evidence to destroy every lie Sabrina planned to tell. And the worst part? She still believed she was winning. Sabrina insisted on throwing Ethan a massive homecoming party. Of course she did. An audience was oxygen to her. For 2 straight weeks, she posted countdown videos, patriotic decorations, emotional captions, and carefully edited throwback clips of Ethan in uniform. My soldier is finally coming home. 8 months apart, and we survived it. True love always waits. Every post made me physically ill. Because behind the scenes, she was still texting me things she would have died if Ethan ever saw. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so twisted. Ethan played his role perfectly. He encouraged the party, told Sabrina he wanted everyone there. Friends, neighbors, people who'd started treating me like a predator because of her lies. Sabrina loved that idea. More witnesses, more admiration, more attention focused on her. What she didn't realize was that Ethan wanted an audience too. Just for a very different reason. He flew home the day before the party and stayed at my house instead of theirs. Sabrina believed he wanted to surprise her publicly. In reality, Ethan couldn't even stand the idea of sleeping beside her anymore. The first time I saw him in person again, my chest tightened. He looked older. Not physically. Emotionally. Like somebody had quietly scraped softness out of him while he was overseas. We hugged hard in my driveway. "You okay?" I asked quietly. He gave a small shrug. "I will be." Then his eyes shifted toward my garage. "You got everything ready?" I nodded once. The evidence projector sat packed inside a black case near my workbench. Every screenshot, every voicemail, every threat. Organized chronologically. Ethan had reviewed the presentation twice already. Precise. Devastating. Unavoidable. "You sure about this?" I asked. He stared ahead for several seconds before answering. "She tried to destroy your life, Vanessa." "That's not what I asked." Finally, he looked at me. "No," he admitted softly, "but I'm done protecting people who would never protect me." That sentence settled heavily between us. Because deep down, I knew Ethan wasn't just angry anymore. He was mourning. And mourning changes people, permanently. Saturday afternoon arrived hot and painfully bright. By 3 p.m., nearly 50 people filled the backyard of Ethan and Sabrina's house. Red, white, and blue decorations covered everything. Flags. Banners. Matching cocktail napkins. A catered buffet. Even a rented photo backdrop with, "Welcome home, hero." Sabrina floated through the crowd like she was hosting an award ceremony. White dress. Perfect hair. Fake tears every few minutes. People ate it up. Meanwhile, I stayed near the back fence, helping Declan set up the projector system. A few guests avoided eye contact with me entirely. Others looked uncomfortable. Good. Let them feel uncomfortable. I'd spent 2 months watching people quietly believe I might be a predator. Now they were about to learn what manipulation actually looked like. At exactly 3:32 p.m., Ethan walked through the back gate. The reaction was immediate. Sabrina screamed dramatically and sprinted across the yard. "Oh my God!" She launched herself into his arms, sobbing loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Baby, I missed you so much." Phones came out instantly. People clapped. Somebody actually started crying. The entire scene looked like a military homecoming commercial. Ethan hugged her back perfectly, smiled, kissed her forehead, played the loving husband role flawlessly. If I hadn't known the truth myself, I might have believed it too. For 15 minutes, everything looked normal. Ethan greeted people, thanked everyone for supporting Sabrina during deployment, shook hands, took photos. Meanwhile, Sabrina stayed glued to him possessively, constantly touching his arm or chest like she was reclaiming ownership publicly. Then Ethan picked up a drink and tapped his glass lightly. "Can I get everyone's attention for a minute?" The crowd gathered quickly. Sabrina beamed beside him, practically glowing with anticipation. She genuinely thought he was about to publicly praise her. And honestly, that was the cruelest part. She never saw the knife coming. Ethan raised his glass calmly. First, thank you all for being here. Coming home after deployment is strange. You spend months surviving one world, then suddenly you're dropped back into another. Everyone listened quietly. I also want to thank my wife for keeping things together while I was gone. Sabrina smiled wider instantly. And I especially want to thank Vanessa. The crowd shifted slightly. Ethan looked directly at me. She protected me when I couldn't protect myself. You could feel confusion moving through the yard now. Sabrina's smile flickered briefly. Then Ethan's voice changed. Subtly. Dangerously. But deployment teaches you something important, he continued. Loyalty isn't what people say publicly. It's what they do when they think nobody's watching. Complete silence. You learn very quickly who actually loves you, and who only loves the image of you. Sabrina slowly turned toward him. Ethan? He ignored her. Some lies were spread about Vanessa while I was overseas. Serious lies. And before this party continues, I think everyone deserves to know the truth. The air changed instantly, like pressure dropping before a storm. Sabrina laughed nervously. What are you doing? Ethan calmly connected his phone to the Bluetooth speaker. Then he nodded toward me. I pressed play. The projector lit up against the back wall of the house. And the first screenshot appeared. Sabrina's text. He chose the military over me. How pathetic is that? Gasps rippled through the crowd immediately. Sabrina's face lost all color. Wait. The next slide appeared. Then another. Then the voicemail. Her voice filled the backyard speakers, whispering explicit things about me while insulting Ethan sexually. Several people physically recoiled. Someone muttered, "What the hell?" Then came the threat. The text where she promised to accuse me of assault if I exposed her. Displayed 30 feet wide in front of everyone she'd lied to. Word for word. You could literally hear people stop breathing. Sabrina started shaking. This is out of context, she snapped suddenly. She manipulated. Everything's time-stamped, Ethan interrupted calmly. His composure terrified even me. Every message, every voicemail, every ring recording, every visit to Vanessa's house, every threat. Sabrina's eyes darted around wildly, searching for support. There wasn't any. Not one person moved toward her. Not one. She tried crying next. Instantly. Like a reflex. Ethan, please, she sobbed. I was lonely. I was confused. You were gone for so long. I was deployed, Ethan said quietly. That silence afterward hit harder than shouting ever could. People stared at Sabrina with open disgust now, especially the ones who'd helped spread rumors about me. I finally stepped forward. Calm. Controlled. For the record, I said evenly, I never touched her. Never wanted to. I documented everything because Ethan is family to me. Jordan looked physically sick. One of the women who'd avoided me for weeks wouldn't even meet my eyes anymore. Sabrina suddenly turned toward me, like she might attack me. Two guys stepped between us, instinctively, before I even reacted. I think you need to leave, Declan said coldly. Sabrina looked around the yard desperately. 45 faces. Not one ally left. Her military wife influencer image was dead. Her marriage was dead. And for the first time in her life, there was no performance capable of saving her. She grabbed her purse and practically ran toward her car. Tires screeched as she sped away. The silence afterward lasted nearly 10 seconds. Then Ethan took a slow sip from his drink and quietly said, Anyway, food's getting cold. And somehow, the party actually continued. The fallout hit faster than even we expected. By Monday morning, half the town knew. Screenshots spread everywhere. Not the private evidence file itself. Ethan never released everything publicly, but enough leaked through people gossiping after the party that Sabrina's carefully constructed image collapsed almost overnight. The devoted military wife persona disappeared first. Her Instagram went private Sunday night. Deleted completely by Tuesday. Years of curated posts vanished in less than 48 hours. Honestly, that told me more than anything else. If the love had been real, she would have fought for Ethan privately. Instead, she erased the brand because the audience stopped applauding. The divorce moved brutally fast. Ethan's attorney was exactly the kind of shark he'd promised. Every threat Sabrina made, every lie, every attempt at manipulation, all of it got weaponized against her legally. No alimony, no leverage, no emotional bargaining room. The evidence file destroyed every version of victimhood she tried presenting. At one point, according to Ethan, Sabrina actually tried claiming I manipulated her emotionally while she was mentally vulnerable. The attorney shut that down in under 5 minutes by introducing the assault threat text. After that, even Sabrina's lawyer reportedly looked exhausted. Financially, she collapsed almost immediately. She'd spent years building an image-based lifestyle around Ethan's military income while barely working herself. Now she suddenly had rent, legal bills, and no online audience left to monetize sympathy from. People vanished from her life quickly, too. That part honestly shocked me less than anything else. The same women who used to flood her comments with, "Your relationship goals, heart," stopped answering her calls within weeks. Because friendships built on performance disappear the second the performance stops being profitable. Ethan handled everything with frightening calm. No screaming, no revenge posting, no public interviews, nothing dramatic. He simply cut her out of his life piece by piece until there was nothing left connecting them. Watching it happen felt colder than rage. It was like watching someone quietly amputate a limb to survive. And then Sabrina made one final mistake. Actually, one final series of mistakes. About a month after the divorce process started, she filed a complaint with Ethan's commanding officer. False abuse allegations.
Emotional abuse. Manipulation. Controlling behavior.
Made-up incidents with fake dates. I found out because Ethan called me, sounding almost amused. She actually did it. You're kidding. Nope. My stomach dropped anyway. Because even false accusations create damage. Military investigations aren't casual. They're serious, invasive, exhausting. Ethan got questioned for nearly 2 days. Statements reviewed. Communications examined. Timelines verified. But here's the problem Sabrina never understood. You can't successfully frame people who prepared for the attack months in advance. Every claim she made contradicted evidence already documented. Meanwhile, Ethan's legal team handed investigators the exact same organized file that had destroyed her publicly. Texts. Metadata. Witness statements. Threats. Ring footage. The investigation closed quickly after that. No findings. No disciplinary action. Clean military standing preserved completely. Sabrina, however, received a formal warning regarding false reporting. And I think that's when reality finally started crushing her for real. Because until then, part of her probably still believed she could manipulate the ending somehow. That there was one final emotional performance capable of restoring control. There wasn't. 6 weeks after the divorce finalized, she showed up at my house. Not Ethan's. Mine. Because Ethan had moved into a gated apartment complex she couldn't access. Old habits die hard, I guess. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Ethan and I were in my garage reviewing estimates for a commercial renovation project. Ironically, he'd become insanely useful helping organize logistics for larger jobs. Turns out, military deployment coordination translates surprisingly well into construction management. My Ring notification buzzed. I glanced at the screen. And immediately almost choked on my drink. Sabrina's car sat in my driveway. Engine running. Mascara already smeared before she'd even gotten out. Like she'd prepared herself emotionally in the mirror beforehand. Ethan looked over my shoulder at the camera feed. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. Not cruelly. Just tired. "You want to handle this alone?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not anymore." He nodded once. "Good." So together, we walked to the front door. Sabrina looked terrible. Not ugly, just hollow. The glamorous influencer version of her was gone completely. No expensive clothes, no perfect makeup, no polished smile. Just exhaustion. The second she saw Ethan beside me, tears started immediately. "Please," she whispered. "Please, just let me explain." Ethan leaned casually against the doorway.
Silent.
So she kept talking. "I know I messed up. I know I did horrible things. But I've been going to therapy and trying to fix myself, and She broke into sobs. "I just need one more chance." Neither of us answered. She turned toward Ethan, desperately. "I was lonely, okay? You were gone all the time, and I panicked. I never actually cheated physically. It was just texts and stupid emotional garbage because I was falling apart." I actually snorted. Sabrina shot me a furious look immediately. "This is between me and my husband." "Ex-husband," I corrected calmly. "And you're standing on my porch." Ethan finally spoke.
Quietly.
"You called me pathetic." She froze. "I didn't mean... You told Vanessa I couldn't satisfy you." "Ethan, please." "You threatened to accuse her of assault." Tears streamed harder now. "I was scared." "You filed a false abuse report against me with the military." "I didn't know what else to do." "That's the problem," Ethan said softly. "You always think destroying people is an acceptable option when you stop getting what you want."
Silence.
The porch light reflected off tears running down Sabrina's face. 6 months earlier, this probably would have worked on almost everyone around her. Now it just felt exhausting to watch. "I've changed," she whispered. "I swear I have." Ethan looked at her for a very long time before answering. "No," he said finally. "You just ran out of options." That hit her harder than yelling would have. You could physically see it. Because deep down, she knew he was right. She looked at me desperately one last time. "Vanessa, please talk to him." I met her eyes evenly. "I already did. That's why he knows the truth." For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Ethan sighed softly. "Go home, Sabrina." She stared at him like she was still searching for the version of him who used to worship her completely. But that version didn't exist anymore. Not after everything she'd done. Not after the lies. Not after the threats. Not after she tried to destroy the only two people who ever truly cared about her. Finally, she turned around slowly and walked back to her car. We watched through the kitchen window as she sat in the driver's seat, crying for almost 2 full minutes before driving away. Then Ethan grabbed his drink from the counter. "You okay?" I asked quietly. He took a sip. "Yeah," he said after a moment. "I think I finally am." And weirdly enough, that was the real ending. Not the party. Not the public humiliation. Not the divorce. Just 2 old friends standing quietly in a garage after surviving someone who tried to tear them apart. We finished reviewing the renovation quote afterward like nothing had happened. Never discussed Sabrina again. Some people deserve revenge. Others deserve silence. In the end, silence buried her far deeper than revenge ever could.